Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another great episode of the Easter Pod. I'm your host, Corey Easterday, and this week's episode is a really encouraging, inspiring, and hope-filled episode because we have the founder, president, and CEO of Current Initiatives, Jason Sowell, joining us on the show today. We get into this more in our conversation, but Jason and I have known each other for a long time, and it's been an honor to be his friend and to be able to work with him in being a part of Current all these years. Jason is one of those people who does a lot of really cool stuff, and in addition to his role with Current, he is also a speaker, a writer, a missionary, a wedding officiant, host of the Boldly Going podcast, and always my favorite part of his bio, a pro surfer in another life. During our conversation, Jason and I dig into some of how Current got started, how it's evolved the last 12 years, what we're currently doing as an organization to help those who have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and all throughout, Jason just shares a lot of great wisdom. So before we get into my conversation with Jason, last thing, I just want to offer up a quick reminder that if you like the show, please be sure to follow us on social media at the Easter Pod and give us a rating, leave a review, and subscribe to the show so that you don't miss an episode. We are already 9 episodes in and have gotten to chat with some pretty incredible people about a wide range of topics. So if you have some time, be sure to look back through our episodes and check out any of the ones that you might have missed. Be sure to check out Current and our work by visiting engagecurrent.org and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at engagecurrent. That's where you can stay up to date on all of our projects, all the stuff we're doing. You can learn how to donate, get involved, all that good stuff. And wherever you're listening, I hope that you and your loved ones stay safe and stay healthy. It's hard to properly describe the time that we are all living in, but all of us have felt its effects in one way or another. So I sincerely hope today's conversation with Jason can serve as a reprieve and can be a boost of hope and encouragement that even in the midst of crisis, there is hope and there are good things happening in the world. Without further ado, my conversation with Jason Sowell. So I am pretty stoked to be able to welcome in our guest on the Easter Pod today. Jason has been a very close friend for a little over a decade now, which is kind of hard to believe, honestly, that it's been that long. And he is also someone I've had the honor of working with for about the same amount of time. As we discussed in our intro, Jason wears a lot of hats, both literally and figuratively. But where our paths crossed and what we will be spending most of our time chatting about today is his role as the founder, president, and CEO of Current Initiatives. Jason, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. Good. I'm sitting here in my isolated office, enjoying a lot of alone time.
Yeah. What have you found besides work to keep yourself occupied these days during quarantine?
Well, I've been working on my house a lot. I bought a house last year and a bunch of house projects sitting around that I haven't done yet. So I've been just working on that. New light fixtures, stuff like that. Bunch of like, Johnny Homemaker home improvement stuff going on over here.
Well, you really do have a nice house, I must say. I've been in it since you bought it, and you've made a lot of really cool improvements. Got a lot of awesome nerdy stuff and art up on the walls, like, Star Wars, Batman, all that good stuff. Have you been rewatching any old shows or movies during the quarantine?
No, not really. I mean, I've been watching a bunch of stuff, but I've been rewatching stuff. I've except maybe The Mandalorian. Then rewatching The Mandalorian a little bit. Staying up on the Clone Wars, the new Clone Wars season. But I don't really do a lot of rewatching of stuff. Occasionally, I'll watch a Star Wars movie or something. But once I've watched it, I'm like, oh, okay, I did that show. I'm moving on to the next thing.
I think before we get into the stuff about Current, the most important question I have, what do you consider to be the best Star Wars movie of all time out of the 9 main ones in the Skywalker saga?
That's tough, man. Probably for me, it's the original OG Star Wars Episode 4. I don't know. When I was a kid, Return of the Jedi was the best of all of them. People like to say The Empire Strikes Back is the best. I think it's okay. I think the original is the best of all of them. Set the tone for everything. It was groundbreaking in a lot of ways, and it's just that's what inspired the whole thing to begin with.
Yeah, coming in with the hot takes here on the Easter Pod, ranking Return of the Jedi over Empire Strikes Back. I like it. That's why we bring you on.
Oh yeah, I'll argue for Return of the Jedi over Empire any day.
Nice. Well, I do want to thank you again for coming on to chat with me. I've talked a little about our work with Current on the pod before, but for those who may be unfamiliar, can you describe what Current Initiatives is and what we do as an organization?
Yeah, Current is a nonprofit organization based in Tampa, Florida. We work in 11 different states, and we have 3 different initiatives that we do. One being the Laundry Project, which is the thing that we do most often. It's the most prominent initiative that we do of our 3. We host we call laundry projects at laundromats all over the country, and basically turn laundromats into community centers and provide free laundry services for families that are struggling financially. Various various struggles that prevents them from being able to have clean laundry on a consistent basis. So we do about 80 to 90 of those a year. We also do a project called the Hope for Homes Project. It's kind of like a extreme home makeover, but instead of tearing a house down and building a new one, we just renovate the house that's already there. And just help a family that's working class or lower income that owns their house, can't afford to do all the safe upgrades and things that need to be done to it, so the house is safely livable and comfortable, and utilities are properly running so that their cost of living is lower and all of that. And then Affordable Christmas is our annual one that we do as well. We set up a shopping event for lower income working class families and give them an opportunity to shop for new unused items for their kids, but about a tenth of the retail cost of what it would typically cost them just trying to buy it at a regular store. So that's what we do. We're all about empowerment and dignity, and charity providing those things, and charity helping give a hand up to people.
Yeah, so I got involved with Current in 2010 when I was a college student in Ohio, and I had an idea that at the time I thought was pretty unique, which obviously turns out was a little bit more widespread than I realized, to raise money on campus, hop in a few cars with friends, and just drive around to different laundromats to help pay for people's laundry. It was a pretty disorganized idea, and I even remember we got kicked out of a few laundromats, not any fault of my own, of course, but one of the friends involved at that time sent me an article about this organization in Florida that was doing something called the Laundry Project. So I reached out, got connected with you, and eventually we formed Current Initiatives of Ohio, which is still going strong to this day with our awesome Ohio director, Denise Huff. I'm just curious, from your perspective, how have you seen Current evolve since you started it, and how has it grown into what it's become today?
Man, it's evolved a lot. I mean, when we first started Current, there wasn't a plan for, or really any kind of like ambition to do anything outside of Tampa. So like we started with one laundromat in a low income neighborhood in Tampa, and I didn't really have any plans to try to do it other than like a few laundromats in the Tampa Bay area. But it's definitely evolved from that to, like I said, 11 states. Part of that is because of people like you. I mean, when you contacted us, I would say, I know you said it was more widespread than you thought, but I would say it wasn't. I mean, it was a unique idea 12 years ago, for sure. So, I mean, it wasn't like, you coming up with that idea for your area was a unique idea. I think it's grown out of that. It's a little more widespread now over the years, but so part of that evolution is people like you that found something somewhat unique that they wanted to be passionate about, and connected with us, and it's kind of grown from there. I mean, I'd say most, this, I mean, most states or cities that we're in is not necessarily by design on our part. We didn't look at a map and go, oh, we should go do it in this city, in this city. Most of it all is from people that either heard about it like you, or people that lived in Tampa that were a part of it and then moved to another city and was passionate about it and wanted to try to make it happen in that city that they moved to. So yeah, I mean, it's evolved in that way. It's evolved in ways like, currently with the pandemic going on, we're still doing projects, but we've retooled them to do them in a way that's safe, and working with city officials, working with the actual mayor's office of the cities here that we're in, and with the local law enforcement, and doing them just in a little more specific way to continue helping people. So I think that's evolved just because we're also very nimble. There's only a couple of us, and 2 of the 3 employees are technically part-time, and most everything is volunteer run. We've got hundreds of volunteers that do things. And so I think that helps us be able to course correct and evolve as we need to.
Yeah. So you mentioned a lot of the ways that it's grown and evolved over the last decade plus. And I definitely want to spend some time on what Current is doing right now in light of the coronavirus pandemic to try and help folks, and kind of like most businesses are having to do, just readjust how we do things. And before I get into that, when you started Current in 2008, why did you start it? What was your original vision and passion? And I guess a follow-up would be, why do you think it's an idea that has had so much growth and movement to it? How has it become so grassroots? Why do people attach themselves to it?
Well, one, I'm too stubborn to give up on it. There's probably, I don't know. There's statistically, I think most startup businesses, but especially startup nonprofits, don't last more than 5 years, I think is the average. But I think honestly, part of that really is, I know I joke about it, but I think part of it is just stubbornness on my part of like, no, I don't quit. I don't give up that easily. So I'm going to figure out a way to make it work. And I'm going to keep going. And I remember in 2008, when we were working on our legal papers for our 501c3 status, and we met with me and one of the guys that was on our board at the time, sat down with an attorney to get him to work on these papers for us, work on the application for us. And I remember the attorney saying, man, you picked a terrible time to start a nonprofit, because we're in the middle of a economic downturn and a depression at the time. And I was like, yeah, you're right. But I figure if I can make it work when the economy's terrible, when the economy gets better, we'll be able to kill it. We'll still be moving. So I think that attitude has probably been something that's helped sustain us, of just understanding that, things ebb and flow. You can't just give up when things don't go the way you always want them to go. And I think along the way, we've had some incredible advisors, people that we've just been fortunate to have on the board and on our advisory board that have been down this road before. They work at very high levels of, government and business, and just their understanding of economics, their understanding of business growth and whatnot has helped us tremendously over the past 12 years. So I think that's part of it. Starting it, for me, I was a pastor for years prior to this, and I was always really passionate about missions work. Did some mission trips here and there, and that's the kind of stuff that I really loved doing in ministry. But I was a little frustrated by how in my world, the experiences I had, I was a little frustrated in some of the things that we did. One being that we're always going to other countries, which is good and important and needful. But I started recognizing that we're passing neighborhoods and in our own cities that in a lot of ways are just as bad off. But we weren't doing anything for those neighborhoods. We weren't doing anything for the people living in those neighborhoods, because just, it's not as exciting or sexy to say, oh yeah, I went 2 miles down the road from my house and took pictures in front of a laundromat, for example, as it is to take pictures in a third world village in the middle of Africa, or South American country. So that was a little frustrating to me. The other thing that was frustrating to me is that most of the missions work that we did was pretty solely centered around wherever we're going. We're doing, things like Vacation Bible School, or we're building a church, or we're holding a church service and things like that. And those, again, are important. But my frustration was that it's great that we, preached to them, and we told them about Jesus, and, they could have an eternal life, but they also are dying from things that are easily cured by something I go to Walgreens and buy over-the-counter medicine for, that they just don't have access to. So why don't we help prolong their life and things like that now as well? In addition to that, why don't we help meet those physical, tangible needs? Because that's what Jesus did. Jesus not only told people, hey, follow me and you can, you'll be in heaven one day, but he also said, oh, you're hungry? Here, let me feed you. You're blind? Let me heal that. You're hurting, you're struggling, let me meet that need for you. And then, by the way, I'm doing this because you're important to God, and you can, if you follow me, this is the way to do it. So that's why I started. So when I left the church I was working at the time, I kind of designed out, what do I want to do? If I could design my own type of ministry, what would it look like? And here we are 12 years later, doing more tangible things, more specifically tangible stuff in our own neighborhoods.
Well, I'm really thankful that you started Current and that you pursued that vision and those ideals and those goals that you just described. I know for myself, we have a similar background in that I majored in youth ministry. I was involved in church plants. I did a lot of preaching and speaking, and was at a time in my life more heavily involved in the church ministry side of things. And you and I have talked about this at great length over the years, but just coming from my own personal background of growing up in a household with a single mom for most of my life that was struggling to make ends meet, I remember just the tangible, practical things like getting food on the table, getting laundry done, having a working vehicle. All of that stuff was constantly, you're just in survival mode. You're just trying to get by. You're just trying to make it to the next day and the next day and so on and so forth. And that was a time in my life when I learned just how easy it can be to take for granted some of the things that people have access to in our everyday lives, like clean laundry. And so my own personal experience of growing up and going through some struggles, and then working in the church and wanting to just connect the dots and say, this God that I'm learning about, I believe cares about all of the stuff in our lives, all of the mundane, all of the things we may not think are big deals. And he cares about people more than anything. And he cares about people right in my own community. So that was a really big connection, and how I even had the motivation to reach out to you to begin with all the way back in 2010 is similar to you. I was feeling frustration with just the church as a whole and wanting to say, all right, if we're meant to be the body of Christ and we're meant to love people, how can we do that in real practical and tangible ways? And I'm really thankful that Current exists, because the laundry project became an outlet for me to express that in my own community. And I'm thankful for you personally, not to get too sentimental too early on in our conversation, but you were somebody that, as me being a young 21-year-old kid, you believed in me early on and empowered me to be a leader in my own community. So, I'm eternally grateful to you for that. But I think it brings up an interesting point that I want to dig into just a little bit. Why laundry? Why did laundry become such a big focus?
Not on purpose. It really was, for me, I didn't grow up like you're saying. I mean, you lived in that world, so you understand it on a very personal level. I grew up, I was fortunate, I grew up in a family. We weren't rich. Both my parents were first responders. one from the law enforcement side, one from the medical side. But we were middle class. I never struggled for anything in my life as far as like things that I needed. There was never a time where like I wondered if I was going to eat or if I was going to have whatever I needed. So I was fortunate in that way. So I never had to do laundry in a laundromat. I did it once when I was in college. Laundry to me was, as it is for probably most people, just something that you just take for granted because it's always there. You have a washer and dryer, and like, especially growing up, usually it's a parent that's doing your laundry. Even as a kid, you don't even think about laundry other than like being told to put your dirty clothes in the dirty laundry hamper, the clothes hamper or whatever. So that was never a thing for me that I would have even thought about. 12 years ago, I was in Southern California with some friends doing some missions work and like checking things out that some friends were doing there, and got introduced to some people that were working with homeless families and homeless individuals in LA. And they took a couple people to a laundromat, a couple of these guys that needed to wash their clothes, and let them wash their clothes, and they paid for it and stuff. And the thing that grabbed me was not necessarily them, it was the families, like the single moms and the families that were in that laundromat that were not homeless. They were just working class families that had to use a laundromat, and just kind of hearing their stories a little bit about making the choice on a regular basis of either washing their clothes or buying groceries for the family. And that really struck a chord with me, that I never realized that was a choice that anyone ever had to make. And it broke my heart that that's a choice that some people have to make. So because of that, kind of just randomly got passionate about, I don't want a mom or a dad to have to make that choice for their family. If I thought about it in terms of my parents having to make a choice for us and my siblings, like having to make a choice of, are we going to buy groceries? Am I going to feed my kids this week, or am I going to wash their clothes so that they go to school with clean clothes? And so that's kind of how we ended up in laundry. So when I came back to Tampa, I just got some people together. I was a youth pastor as well. So at that point, most of the students I had worked with, they were in college at the time. So I gathered some of these former students of mine that were in college and scrounged some money together and just showed up at a laundromat and started paying for people's laundry. Had no real plan. We had a little bit of a plan, but no real validity to what we were doing, and just kind of went from there. And I've learned more about laundry over the past 12 years than I ever cared to know. So, but that's how we got into it. Honestly, wish I could say it was my brilliant idea to go, man, people are struggling with laundry. We need to go do that. But I kind of fell backwards into it through some other people.
Yeah, and you talk about learning more about laundry than you ever thought you would have. I can definitely echo that. It's been cool to talk with laundromat owners and people in the industry, and yeah, I feel like I could open my own laundromat now and be fairly successful with all we've learned. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I would want to, but yeah.
Right. Well, hey, maybe if this whole nonprofit thing doesn't work out, that can be our alternative plan, is to just open our own laundromat.
Well, listen, I've learned enough to know that is the last thing that I would want to do as a business. It's not as like, oh, money's everywhere, I'm going to make a ton of money doing this coin laundry thing.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think about my life now as compared to what it was like growing up. And I think about how I have a support system. Things are much more fluid. My worries and concerns are not as much in the day-to-day. How am I going to survive? Where's my next meal coming from? But I know for a lot of folks, you talked about having to make choices. That is the reality. It is a genuine choice between how am I going to pay for my laundry if I have kids and other people, I have to get laundry done or wash bedding, or it can be so expensive. How am I going to pay for my laundry versus how am I going to buy groceries or pay the electric bill? And what I love about Current is, like you said, a big part of what we're trying to do is make sure people don't have to make that choice. And you talk about having to make choices, and poverty can be such a complicated situation to live in. There's always a snowball effect. There's always red tape. You're always trying to figure out how to make all the puzzle pieces fit together. And with something like the coronavirus pandemic, I know that sense of survival and trying to make ends meet and trying to make things fit together has become so much more heightened for people. Can you describe what we've done as the Laundry Project to adapt our model of how we would typically do a laundry project day? So what do we do now to help families that have been impacted by the coronavirus pandemic? What does a typical laundry project look like now?
Yeah. Well, and first of all, to put it in context of part of our philosophy has always been that we can't fix every problem. I'm not in it to necessarily completely solve, every poverty issue. I can't do that. It's too big of a thing. But what I can do is, people are starting to do their laundry, so we can do that. So let's figure out a way to do that and help alleviate that burden. And my philosophy, if everyone does the thing that they can do, more problems will get solved. I think a lot of times we're too busy trying to go, well, how do we fix this for everyone, or how do we fix every problem that this family has? Like, oh, not only can they not wash their clothes, but they can't pay their electric bill, they can't do these other things. So being kind of centrally focused on, I can't solve all the problems, and that's okay, but what problem can I help with? And let me do that. And so, I kind of see it as like you said, there's what's my next meal? There's kind of those emergency efforts. I see things in terms of, is kind of like, an emergency response. There's there's a car accident or something, and the police arrive and paramedics arrive. There's multiple layers of things that happen between arriving at the accident and getting that person to the hospital. And the hospital is the long-term care, the overarching, we're going to solve all the problems and figure it all out. The emergency response is we have to treat the problem right here on the ground, right this second. And then we have the ambulance that's going to get them to the long-term response. And so we're going to manage from the accident to the hospital. And I see a lot of what we do is like, we're the ambulance. We're part of the ambulance. We're helping people make it from point A to point B, to hopefully help them find some long-term solutions. So when it comes to, things going on with the pandemic and people having social, isolate and self-quarantine and social distancing and all that, obviously our laundry projects are just typically open to whoever. We show up at a laundromat on a Saturday morning, we put up our signs, and it's first come, first served. Whoever shows up at the laundromat shows up. Sometimes there's people just packed in there like sardines because the laundromat is small and tight, and people are bumping into each other and all of that. And obviously that can't happen right now, but that need still exists. And to be honest with you, that need probably grows during all of this than it is on a regular basis, because now you've got a lot of people that are in hospitality industries that, they work, they pay their bills, but they use a laundromat because they don't have, they live in an apartment or whatever. They don't have a wash and dryer at home, whatever the case may be. So they use a laundromat on a regular basis. But now these people that are regularly working are also now having to make a choice of, what am I going to do? I need to wash my clothes, because one, think about it, laundry is a mental thing. So if you wore dirty clothes all the time, mentally, just your view of your own self, how other people treat you, how society views you, all kinds of things, your mental state, everything kind of is affected by just having clean clothes, clean towels, all that. But then on top of that, laundry is also a health and wellness issue, not just mentally, but also physically. If you're living in dirty clothes and dirty, soiled towels and sheets and all that for a long stretch of time, that's unhealthy physically for you, your family, and people like that. So things have to be washed. And so with the pandemic going on, it needs to be done even more. because not completely knowing and fully knowing like how the virus spreads and all that. It's important to keep as much things clean as possible. So that need is growing. So what we've kind of transitioned to and figuring out, all right, how do we keep doing this? How do we keep helping people in this scenario? So what we're doing now is, instead of it just being open to the public, we're being very specific with some of the laundromats that we're working with. We've kind of scaled down to, we're only going to work with these few laundromats in these particular areas. And we're going to kind of retool it in the same way that we do our Affordable Christmas, where families are pre-registered. It's not necessarily open to the public for just general public to come in. All those families are pre-registered through some partner community organizations. So, for example, a local school, elementary school that, in a impoverished neighborhood, knowing their families and trying to help the families that are struggling, helping them with services, letting them sign up families from their school to be able to wash their clothes for their kids, or just their family in general. So they're pre-registered. We cap it to a certain number. They get a time slot throughout the day. Only a certain number of families per hour can come through, just to keep the numbers down. For typically we have 10 to 20 volunteers at a average laundry project. We have like 2 or 3 maybe now, because we want to keep it safe and very tight, but also we don't need as many volunteers because of how we're doing it. And so those volunteers in that space, everyone's got gloves on. We've got hand sanitizer for everyone coming in the door. They have to use hand sanitizer every time they come in and out. We've got cleaning supplies that we're constantly going through the laundromat, wiping down, cleaning all the handles, all the touch surfaces, anything that people would be dealing with their hands. We're constantly cleaning. And then the biggest thing that we've done is we've connected with our city governments, with the mayor's office so where I live, obviously, in Tampa, the Tampa area, we have 3 major cities that are all sister cities connected together: Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater. And then we have smaller municipalities that are also bedroom communities of those. For example, a place like Gulfport being a separate city, but also part of St. Petersburg. So what we're doing is working with those mayor's offices, and also working with the law enforcement agencies in those cities. And they helped us write a plan for safety that follows the guidelines of the government, and what they are recommending and what they want citizens to do. And so they have city officials on site during the project to kind of help deter general public from coming in during the time that we're doing that, to just help us make sure things are, we're keeping to social distance guidelines, that things are safe and running smoothly and properly, just to continue helping people as best we can. And that's one of those, like, we're not going to help a ton of people doing it, but that's okay. We're going to help the people that we can help. If it's 10 families, fantastic. That's 10 families that didn't have that service before. And that's 10 families that would have gone probably weeks without washing their clothes, or washing their blankets and things like that. So again, we can't solve the entire city's problem with that, but we can help a certain number. So that's kind of how we're operating. So we're doing projects every week. We're doing them on weekdays instead of weekends, to help alleviate some of the overrun of people being in the laundromat. So that's kind of what it looks like right now.
I've always loved your perspective on things, and what you said earlier about not trying to fix every problem, but to basically just do what we can. And we will dig into that phrase a little bit, but one of the things you've said before is it's not about trying to save the world. It's just focusing on the one person in front of you. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, especially in a time like now when problems can be so overwhelming. What are a few of the stories you've heard or things you've experienced in the midst of doing laundry projects during the coronavirus pandemic that have been encouraging and giving you hope right now?
Yeah, it's been interesting because, every laundry project, we have people thanking us because of, financial thing or whatever. And I've been used to people that live in a underserved neighborhoods that are extremely low income. I've heard them tell stories of like washing their clothes in the bathtub and then hang drying it on their shower rod and things like that. And, making those kinds of choices. And, what I've seen a lot more is people that don't live in those kinds of neighborhoods that are, would be considered more middle class, that are struggling because they're out of work, and talking about, I was going to wash my clothes in my bathtub because I didn't have another option, because I just didn't have the money right now because I'm out of work and things like that. And just being extremely thankful for, man, I'm so glad you're still doing this, or people are doing this, because I think they recognize that just the sheer fact of getting up, putting on clean clothes, even though you're not going anywhere, even though I have to I have to stay at home, can't go out unless I'm going to the grocery store or something like that. But that act of getting up, putting on clothes, and just the mental state of like, I'm going to be active and doing something throughout the day. And part of that is putting on clothes. And part of that is putting on clean clothes, makes us feel better, gives us a good mental perspective. It helps us have hope. It helps us kind of have a footing and feel some normalcy of life. So it's been good to hear that families just, kind of emotionally thankful for us providing the service so that they can just at least feel and experience some kind of normalcy to life, just to help them keep moving forward, and just recognizing like there are people that care and there's people that are out, I guess risking it, if you will, to keep helping in the ways that we can. So it's been interesting to hear different stories and hear people just kind of like the relief. It's really, and sometimes they don't even say anything. It's just kind of, you could kind of see the relief, or just the sigh of relief, and just, I can kind of relax for a minute and not have to worry about what am I going to do to wash my clothes or wash my kids' clothes. And it's one less financial burden that I got to think about right now. So that's been a good thing. And yeah, like you said, I'm not trying to change the world over here. I'm just trying to help the one or few families that we can.
Yeah, for sure. And laundry is one of those things that, as you've discussed, has so much personal dignity tied to it. Just the feeling, like you mentioned, of we've been in our homes every day, but I feel like I have a totally different mentality when I get up and get dressed, and just having the ability to have clean clothes and clean sheets can do so much for a person's sense of self-worth, and that can go overlooked. And I don't want to get on a soapbox here about charity work or why we do what we do necessarily, but one of the things I appreciate about our focus as an organization is having a focus on something like personal dignity and affirming that for people, because in so much of charity work out there, and it's really unfortunate, and I experienced this a little bit growing up in my situation, it can create kind of a us and them mentality where we're all somehow, they're them, we're us. There's kind of you kind of create your little camps. And when you go to a laundry project, and for anyone that's ever been to a laundry project, all of those barriers and all of those walls are completely broken down. It really does create a community center of hope, and people really can come together and bridge the gap in any differences they may have, learn from each other. There's no savior mentality happening. It's just, you're a person, I'm a person, you have dignity, I have dignity. Let's affirm that, and let's do something tangible to help meet that need. One of the things that I really appreciate about you is your ability to adopt and create new slogans that perfectly summarize the work we do. And within the last few years, you've adopted phrases like Hope Dealer, Do What You Can, and Soap and Hope. Can you talk about what those phrases mean to you and why you introduced them into the culture of Current?
Yeah, they're all pretty personal. Kind of the slogan we've used for a while now of Hope Dealer really came from one of our board members that died a few years ago. It was a 44-year-old guy that 5 kids, relatively healthy, got a rare form of cancer, and quickly, within 6 months of being diagnosed with this rare form of cancer, died. And the thing with him is that he was always, not only is it a personal loss because he was a friend, he was like a big brother to me, but the loss to our organization, because he was a guy that no matter just his attitude in life in general was there was always a solution. He was always positive. It was always, there was no insurmountable obstacle. And so, especially during when he was battling for cancer, we started calling him a hope dealer because even when he was deteriorating and dying, he was still giving hope and dispensing hope and positivity to other people while he was the one falling apart. And so, it just kind of became a moniker for him for a while. And then we just adopted that as like, that's what we want to be. That's, as an organization, that's what we want to do for people, is to give them hope. Hope can be a tangible thing. It can be an intrinsic thing. It can be, it can be given without words. It can be felt. It can be seen. And I think we throw that word around a lot, but it really is it means a lot more than I think we give it credit for sometimes. Like it really does instill a lot of purpose for us individually, and just an outlook for the future. I think it's important for us to have that. Currently, with all the pandemic going on, and we've kind of adopted that phrase of "do what you can." And that honestly came from a movie. I was on the last trip that I had before we went on, kind of this full lockdown of not traveling as much and staying in place, and the pandemic really kind of hit and took over the U.S. I was coming back from Las Vegas. We were doing our laundry projects there, and I was coming back home, and on the plane, I decided I've been kind of wanting to watch this movie, Jojo Rabbit. And so I'm going to check this out and watch this movie. I got time on the airplane, so I watched it, and it was not at all what I expected it to be. Completely different. What I got out of it, at least, was completely different than what I expected the movie to be going into it. And the thing that stuck out to me was there's kind of this running theme throughout, and there's a scene where, not to spoil anything, it's not going to spoil the movie, but there's a scene where, and it's very widely known historically that the Nazis during World War II, when they were always looking for spies within their own ranks. Anyone that they suspected to be a spy or not toting the party line, they would make examples of them. And one of the ways they would do that is they would do public hangings, or they would hang people that they considered to be spies. They would hang them in the town square and just leave their bodies hanging there for people to see, like, hey, this is what happens when you don't follow the rules, so to speak. And there's a scene where, the main character is walking with his mom, and they kind of walk through the town square, and he sees these people that have been hung, and they're hanging there, and he asks his mom, what did they do? Asking her, like, why are they hanging there? What did they do wrong? And her mom, or his mom, the kid's mom, just said they did what they could. And it was an answer, but it was a non-answer. It was like, I'm not going to really answer you, but the reason they're hanging there is because they did what they could to try to change things, and it got them in trouble. But ultimately they did what they could. They didn't just sit around and not do anything. And so there's kind of this running theme of do what you can throughout. So it really just struck a chord with me, especially with what we're facing right now. And so it became all right, we're going to figure out a way to do what we can do to help people as best we can while things are the way they are, and then we'll continue that after the fact, but especially right now when the world is in a bit of a crazy spot.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. I love that mentality, and we talked about already at length in this podcast, but just that idea, focusing on the one in front of you. You can't fix every problem. Do what you can. I think it's so easy to get overwhelmed by all of the issues in our world, both on a macro and on a micro level, and just being able, I've talked about it before on the pod, but just being able to take the next step, do the next thing, do the next right thing, do what you can, as you've discussed, is so important. And it makes all the issues, they go from being this really overwhelming thing where you almost feel paralyzed by fear to step out and do anything. And it makes it tangible to where you can really just have a starting point and go from there and help people as best you can. So I think that's really important. And I'm really thankful that you've introduced those phrases into current and into our culture, because I think about them often in many contexts in life. We often talk about the importance of partnership within current. Why do you think partnership and collaboration between organizations is so important right now? Because partnership and collaboration, as we've done this for 10 plus years, is not always something that happens all the time. So when that does come together, what does that look like, and why is it important to have partnership?
Well, that's like what I was saying before. It's, when you recognize that you can't fix every problem and you stop trying to fix every problem, I think it's where a lot of organizations kind of derail themselves a little bit, is they try to fix every problem that either someone has or a community has. And in my opinion, we don't have to do that. If you just, what's the thing that you can do and you can do well, do that, and then look for the person or the organization or the people that are doing something to help the other problem that you can't tackle, and work together on that. And if we all did that, eventually all of the problems would, on some level, get solved or at least made better. But I think a lot of times it's pride, it's territory, it's, organizations a lot of time get territorial about what they're doing, and we all want the recognition for the thing that we're doing, and we don't want someone else to get the recognition for. It's no, this was my project. I want people to recognize that we did this. So, but if you can put that to the side and go, the ultimate goal here is that the people we're helping get the help they need, and that their lives are made better. And if that's the ultimate goal, then it doesn't really matter who gets the credit for it. It doesn't matter who's standing in the limelight of it, as long as the problem got helped. But that's, easier said than done a lot of times. But I think it's important. I think we need to. I think, I think it's always better to recognize in yourself, what are my strengths and weaknesses? Great. I'll do the things that I'm good at, and I'm going to find some other people that are good at the things that I'm not good at, and I'm going to let them be good at the things that they're good at. I think a lot of times when we do that, or if we're in scenarios like that, we take it as like it's an attack on our weaknesses, or it's an attack on us personally. But that's not what it is. It's a recognition of like, I'm not perfect at everything. Neither are they, but they're better at that thing than I am. And why would I not want the smartest person in the room about that thing to be sitting at the table to compliment the thing that I'm not the smartest about? Because if we're trying to help and we're trying to make things better, then we want the smartest and the people that are best at what they do, playing to their strengths and doing those things. I'm not going to try to, I'm terrible at that thing, but I'm going to be the best at it. So I'm going to try to figure it out because I need the recognition for it. So I think it's important to just go, all right, here's what I'm good at. I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to help. I want to bring other people let's just put all our lanes together and create a massive highway together to help people and help the world be better.
100%. I have seen this played out, as have you, that you can make so much more. We talk about the small differences you can make, what you can do, kind of like what's right in front of you. But that's how the really big stuff, the really big problems get tackled, is people coming together, working together, collaborating. So I 100% agree. Before I let you go here in a few minutes, I stole this question from your podcast, the Boldly Going podcast, which people should absolutely go and check out. You have about 41 episodes in there, and you've had a lot of awesome conversations with a lot of great people. But one of the things I loved about that podcast is, as you're talking with these folks, you would ask them to give their advice or their encouragement to someone that was listening that wanted to maybe emulate them or do what they're doing. So when it comes to, someone's listening and they want to make a difference in their community, they want to help others, they want to do what they can, they want to be a hope dealer, what encouragement or advice would you give them about how to get started?
It's going to sound real trite, but just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'll put it in this context. Back when I started Current, 2008, one of the books that I read, and someone I was a speaker that I was following for a while back then, I still do, but his book at the time really impacted me. It's a book called The Art of the Start, and it's a guy named Guy Kawasaki, and he was one of the original Apple evangelists, what they call the Apple evangelists. That was, one of the guys out, preaching the gospel of Apple computers, if you will. And one of the things that he talked about was Apple's philosophy, and we've seen this play out over the years, is that it doesn't have to be perfect. If you wait to figure out all the glitches and make your product, if it's a product, if you make your product perfect before you put it to market, you'll never go to market, because there will always be flaws, or it'll never be perfect. So the better thing to do is to get your product in the market and fix it as you go. Let your customers tell you what needs to be course corrected or fixed or different and all that, and fix it as you go. And that's kind of what we did with Current. It was like, well, I don't know how all this is going to work, but I'm not going to sit around and wait to try to figure it out. I'm just going to go do it. So let's go do it and we'll figure it out. And that's what happened. We showed up to a laundromat and had no idea what we were doing. And then like, oh, we should do this differently. This will work better if we do it this way, and add these elements to it and retool and move forward in that way. So, my advice to people is always like, if there's something you're passionate about, first of all, it should be something you're really passionate about. Go find someone or an organization or someone that's either already doing it, and go link up with them and try to help them do it even better. If you can't find someone that's already doing it, then try to do it yourself. But it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry about perfection. Get the thing done. It's more important that we help people, and the thing that you're passionate about needs to be in the world. It needs to have, if it's art, if it's a piece of art, like you want to do some kind of art thing, but you're just not sure where to start and all that, like just do it. Just start trying it. You'll figure it out as you go. And I think it's more important that the thing you're passionate about and needs to be done is in the world and you're doing it, than it is to it be perfect before anyone experiences that thing. So that's always my advice. Just do it. Just don't worry about it being perfect. Get out there, start making it happen.
Yeah, that's incredible advice. And I've tried to live by it. I haven't always been perfect at living by that advice. It was something I did when I started doing the laundry project in Ohio, is I tried to just go out there and do it. And as we talked about, there were definitely some mistakes that were made, and kind of learned as I went. And it's something that, as you and I have had discussions over the years about different things I've wanted to do or create, even like this podcast, that's been such an important lesson to finally just go out and do it, like you're saying, and not wait till it can be perfect, and learn as you go. So that's incredible advice.
Yeah. And if I could add on that, just for context, I myself naturally am a massive perfectionist. So it runs counterintuitive to my own natural personality type, but it's been good for me because I have, I think, learned the art of being able to go, it's all right. It's okay to make mistakes. It's, I think we see mistakes. I think we're trained, like, as we're growing up. I think there's so much information and things that influences that put on us that mistakes are a bad thing. that mistakes are a failure of us as a person or as a human being. And that's not really the case. Mistakes are how we learn. If we don't make mistakes, we don't learn lessons that we need to learn. And I think if we get too caught up in, it's got to be perfect, I can't make the mistakes, like, if I make a mistake, people are going to think I'm stupid or things like that. Like, I think a lot of that is just our own mentality, our own, self issues, lack of self-confidence in ways that we should be confident, and just being able to go, yeah, I made a mistake, but that's not the end of the world. What did I learn from it? Great. I'll take that lesson. I'll move forward. I'll do it differently next time. So, some of that for me is my own, that's just something I say that to other people because I'm constantly trying to teach myself that own lesson of like, doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay. Get it done and move forward. So I counter that with, let's ask forgiveness rather than permission. So when we make the mistake, I didn't know I needed to ask permission for that. I'm sorry. Forgive me. How do you want me to do it differently next time? Got it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm a perfectionist too, as evidenced by the fact that we restarted our conversation probably 2 or 3 times before I felt comfortable that we were on the right track of recording this podcast. And that's one of the things I've very much appreciated about our friendship over the years is you are a little further down the road than me age-wise, and we have similar stubborn, perfectionistic tendencies, whatever, that we mostly use for good, but sometimes we can butt heads. And overall, you've been really encouraging to me on like, hey, if you make a mistake, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Learn from your failure. Don't let it paralyze you to take the next step, grow from it, really use it as a tool. And that's really helped me in a lot of ways, both in our work with Current and personally, to remember those lessons. So I really hope people soak that in because it is excellent advice. And I think it is so key to doing anything in life because you will have failures and make mistakes along the way. Nothing is ever truly perfect. So I'm very glad you shared that. So where can people go to find out more about Current? And especially if they'd like to donate or get involved, it's obviously my job to know all of that and I can recite it by heart, but just for the benefit of our listeners, why don't you direct people where they can go to follow us and learn more?
Yeah. If you go to our website, www.engagecurrent.org, you can go there. You can find all kinds of information. There's videos. You can see what everything looks like. There's news stories. There's very clearly a donate page where people can donate financially. You can volunteer if we're in a city that you're in. We'd love to have you volunteer with what we're doing. You can do it there. You can find us on our social media at Engage Current. And that's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find us on all those platforms and follow us as well. And you can donate there also.
Yeah, and if I do say so myself, the content on social media is top notch. Whoever does that really really does a great job.
You know what? Those volunteers that run and post things are doing a great job.
Oh no. Well, Jason, I just have to say, we joked before we came on. I was like, I don't know if you're actually going to answer my questions seriously. You might just give me crap the whole time and just kind of poke fun at each other. So maybe that can be the next time I have you on. We'll just do that.
Yeah. Well, what people listening don't know, so we'll just help them out with, is that by the time they're listening to this, you've already edited every bit of that out of the episode. So it just sounds like I answered all your questions. Seriously.
No way, man. Come on. We're talking about perfectionism. I'll leave stuff in. Oh man. Well, Jason, I just have to say how grateful I am, on a personal level for you and for your friendship and the opportunity we've had through Current and through our travels to deal some hope together these last 10 years or so, and how much I'm looking forward to continue doing so in the future. And I just want to thank you so much again for coming on. Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for doing your podcast, man. This is great. Yeah, I appreciate it. Hey, Boldly Going podcast helped inspired it, so here I am boldly going myself.
I like it.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. You have a great day.
How about you too?
You got a lot of cool like Batman and Star Wars stuff up on the wall. Have you been rewatching any Star Wars or Batman or any of your favorite nerdy stuff to check out? Sorry, I get. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I just took myself completely out of it. Oh man, I'm sorry. It's so weird just sitting in a closet.
Please just keep all this in. Just let all of this.
I
Just
can't.
keep all of this in the episode.
That's not how I roll. Oh my God.